Hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. This time we're going to dig into Invoices on Swell Enterprise. So once you're logged into your dashboard here, you can either click on the three dots at the top for the mega menu, or if you've already shortlisted this to your sidebar, you can get to it from there. But we're going to navigate to Sales, and then we're going to click on New Invoice. So one thing you're going to want to make sure you do is go in and add some line items. You can either add line items directly from the Create New Invoice screen right here on the drop down, or you can add new line items by going to Sales, and under the Invoices section you should see line items, and while you're at it you can go ahead and add some taxes too if you have to adhere to local, state, or national tax. So the first thing you'll want to do is select a client, and then you can create a custom invoice number. And what this does is this actually auto increments. So if we start this, for example, at 1-A, the next invoice we create will be 1-B, 1-C, and so on. You could also just use numerical values here, so 1, and then the next invoice we create will be 2, 3, and so on. You can go ahead and set the due date while you invoice here, and you can set the purchase order number. So once you go ahead and fill in those fields, go start adding some line items. Now if you've already created your line items, you can just select them from the drop down, as you'll see here. If you've not yet added line items, go ahead and add a new one by just clicking on the drop down and click on Add New. We'll go ahead and do that now. So I'll add one for, let's say, hosting. And I'll make this amount here $420 just for example purposes. Quantity I'll keep at 1, and I do want to add this to our global line items. What this means is that we can reuse this line item at future invoices for different clients. So I'll go ahead and click Create. Once that's done, you should see it auto-populate in here. Now if I needed to, I can go ahead and change the price on these line items, or I can change the quantity. To add or subtract line items, just click on the plus or minus icons next to each line item, and that will give you an additional row. So again, I can edit the individual costs or quantities. I can also edit the description, and I can add a note to the client. Now if you've set up taxes, you can click on the taxes checkbox here, and it'll ask you which tax you'd like to apply. So I'll go ahead and click Add Taxes, and you can see where it's automatically calculated our taxes. The next thing I'll want to do here is click Save. Now this does not yet send it to the client. You have to proceed to the next screen in order to send it to the client. So what this will do is give you the preview, and this of course is where you can see all the history of the invoice, any payments that have been made, or payment methods that have been saved on file. So from here, there are a few things you can do. You can go ahead and grab the link. So for example, if I wanted to send this to a client via email, I can do that, copy the link over, and you'll see right here in the address bar where it will give you the public link. You can also generate a PDF or view it. You can manually enter a payment, and you can finally send the invoice to the client. So when you send the invoice to this client, they will get an email notification from the system, and that's where you will see where they have viewed the invoice, as you'll see here, whether or not it's been sent, paid, if there's a partial payment, or if it's still saved in draft. So if we look at one of these that, for example, have been paid, and we dig into the Histories tab, that's where you're going to see when the client paid the invoice, when they viewed it, and as you'll see here, this invoice was actually triggered by a workflow that we created, an automated workflow. But this is where you can see all the details on the invoice, and again, if you need to manually enter a payment, you can do it here. Otherwise, if you've set up the online payment options, you can collect payments from that screen. So the last thing I want to show you is if you click on your avatar in the top right hand corner and then go to Settings, there's an Invoices tab on your settings where you can set things like default pay date, whether or not you want to calculate tips, what are the default payment terms, your currency, You can set your annual revenue goals. You can enable late fees. You can send payment reminders and customize the message. So there's lots of things you can do here. And again, this is from your company settings. All right, that concludes the tutorial. If you have any questions, feel free to reach us at the bottom right-hand corner on the chat window.